The reality is we need to learn to say no and discipline ourselves.
Say yes to things that align with who you are, because that time isn't going to come back. Welcome to the Dad Central Show, the podcast that helps overwhelmed dads conquer stress, build confidence, and become the father their family brags about. Join Drew Solon, a leadership coach and father of 5, and Ed Gow Jr., a fatherhood advocate and contributor to the Good Men Project, as we guide you through the journey of fatherhood. We'll show you how to connect deeply with your family, manage your time and energy better, and master tools to become the dad you want to be. Let's get started. What is up, everybody? It is Ed Gow Jr. of Dad Central with the bearded warrior.
Nice. Okay, I'll take it. Drew Solon of Dad Central, also known as the bearded warrior.
I like that one. Okay.
The problem being is I probably have the weakest beard out there. I mean, the guys who can really grow beards, they would just laugh hysterically. Like, you call that a beard? But I'll take it from you, Ed. Appreciate it.
No problem. Well, as always, you are checking us out on Dad Central, a parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. Also, our show is
Just not in
sponsored by
beards.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Our show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. When Dove Men Care Plus, please, they care is the best of a man, because when men care about themselves and others, there is a positive impact. And today we've got another epic conversation. We're going to be talking about why most dads struggle with time management and how to reduce stress fast. Drew, you can't relate to this one, can you?
Managing time, blended family, 5 kids. I guess I have multiple jobs these days as well, let alone wanting to take care of myself. Yeah, you can feel like there never is enough hours in the day, for sure.
Right. So we're going to be chatting about a number of things. And we realize with dads, fathers, male caregivers, there's work, fatherhood, personal time, and it's really easy to feel overwhelmed. And we're going to go through some things today on stress and taking control of your stress, like the 80-20 rule, the power of a simple daily routine. I know Drew's really into that, this simple routine, delegating and automate where you can, protecting your mental energy, and learn to say no to the wrong things. So let's get into it, Drew. Why do you think dads struggle with time management?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. I think it's what I've learned years ago is the ability to prioritize how you manage your time or prioritize the things that are in your life. You know, as a dad, once you've got other people in your life, you have to really reduce reduce the selfishness, because the reality is when you're by yourself, the only person affected by your decisions is you. But when you got family, and you've got to figure out, where do I invest my time, energy, and what are the priorities? Because truthfully, it can easily get away from you. So I think that's one of them. Depending on the person, they may be a people pleaser. We've heard a few dads say, I've always been this type of people pleaser. So you often say yes. I've got a good friend, probably one of the people who I would say is the best time manager around, but he's really struggled with this as he's gotten busier, gotten more demands. He's got 5 kids as well. He's got multiple businesses, and he was hard for him to say no to people. And we're going to talk about that more, but that's the reality. I mean, he is a high performer. So I think many of us can get caught in that trap of like, well, we got to do it. We got to say yes. And so the ability to establish healthy, reasonable boundaries, I think can be it erodes at your time and energy. So I think those are 2 quick thoughts for me. What about you?
Yeah, well, just adding on what you're saying yes to too many things can get into it. Hey, we think our kids get distracted by social media and screens. I know probably some dads do too. And then not playing the quality time with the kids and their partner, and just a poor, and that always that balance between work and fatherhood and personal time all come in to the arena we're going to jump into today. So let's talk about some solutions. So let's first off talk about the 80-20 rule.
Okay. Otherwise known as the Pareto principle. where it says basically, 80% of your results comes from, we'll say, 20% of your effort, or let's say the 80% of your sales come from your top 20% of your customers. You can apply this almost anywhere in life. And so the reality is that, let's say you have 10 priorities in life right now. It's a pretty long list. I don't know how many people might have 10. The reality is that 80% of your results or the return is going to come from the top two priorities. So when you understand the prayer principle and see how it works in your life, and you start to evaluate, well, okay, of my 10 priorities, what are the top two? And you'll ultimately probably get the greatest value from this top two, 80% of it, right? And then the other 80% account for the final 20% of your value. So the more that you understand this principle with clarity on what your actual priorities are, you can allocate your time accordingly. And so, as an example for me in my life, in terms of my overall well-being, physical activity and exercise helps my mental, emotional, relational, spiritual life so much more than many of the other things that I might be able to choose to do. And so, if it's for me, physical activity is like a must. For somebody else, it might be reading. For another dad, it might be music. For another dad, it might be socializing with friends. Like, so the more that you know and understand where you get the greatest amount of benefit from, then you can begin to build your schedule off of that. And that applies across multiple streams. So when it comes to my relationship with my kids, what does this look like in practicality? We get a great connection from sort of rough and tumble, sort of horseplay, or being physically active together, right? Or actually, we started doing this, just being sort of reading and laughing together. So I don't have to like have so much time, but if the time I do have, I invest in those activities that really build the bond and the connection with my kids. When I know that, then I can make better choices, more efficient choices with my time. So if I final thing about this is, if I've got, let's say, an hour with the kids, you know, will I, spend that half an hour preparing a meal, or having them help me prepare a meal and do those types of things? Probably not, because it doesn't really build that same bond as if we just kind of went outside and horsed around and did a few things for like 15, 20 minutes. That's going to build a greater connection for us in that period of time as opposed to doing these other things.
Yeah, I'll just add on to what Drew's saying there for dads and fathers, male caregivers. Try to prioritize the high impact fatherhood moments over the time wasting activities. So the high impact moments, and Drew mentioned some of those right there. And again, they don't have to be long, but they have to be impactful. Those high impact fatherhood moments. If you're crunched for time like many of us are, be intentional for those engaging high impact moments that you're spending with your child, your children, your family, that will really go a long way. Just building on another thing I know Drew can talk about because he talked about his workouts and that, a simple daily routine. Do you have one, Drew?
Yes and no. Meaning,
That's good to be
my day,
honest.
my daily routine, um, I think, could be stronger. And of course, my dynamic is, I'm on a 2255 schedule with the three kids who are with my ex-wife, and of course, it's all day every day with Sophia and Eliana. So it throws a little bit of a wrinkle in there. But to answer the question in terms of the daily routine, typically when Jane and Michaela and Jordan are here, really relates to the morning in terms of making sure everyone's up. There's some structure to the morning, and then they're out the door on the time that they need to. And then when they come home, having a good element of structure when they first get home on how that first hour, hour and a half is going to go. Some days I'm not here, but that structure remains, and it becomes an anchoring point and stability for them, as well as how I can insert myself, we'll say, into that structure in a way that engages and connects with them, and then brings the transition from school back to home. So there is a routine and a structure, but sometimes you have to. It's easier to modify the structure based on demands when you have something to go by in the first place.
Yeah, we were part of our dads group earlier on this week, and I asked a question of all the dads at the end. What's your how do you start your morning, or how do you start your day? Really, really, really key for myself. Before I get out of bed, I say my prayer, meditation, and then I say, okay, what's one thing I'm going to do to help myself today? And what's one thing I'm going to do to help someone else today? It's like 15 minutes before my large feet hit the wooden floor. I know where my ship is going, at least initially. Sometimes within 5 minutes it blows up, but at least I know I have a game plan. And also having a non-negotiable time daily, if you have that, if you have access to your kids on a regular basis, a non-negotiable time, like, hey, if they come home from school, even if it's a few minutes, how was your day? What did you do today? Make that non-negotiable. Next up, we have delegate and
Well,
automate where you oh, go ahead.
before we go on, I think you make really important points, and
Yeah,
especially for the morning routine, or even let's say the end of the day routine.
day.
So,
Mhm.
John Maxwell talks about this, where he essentially debriefs the day for a span of 15 minutes. It could be the debrief of the work day. It could also be a debrief of sort of the whole family day, the day that you spend with the family, and connecting that way. And so I think there's real power in both a routine in the morning and a routine in the evening, and that's why one of my accountabilities with our mentorship group is in the morning, before I do get out of bed, or before I essentially get into my what's the day's going to bring, that I sit down, and I thoughtfully and intentionally journal, and do some other activities off of the journaling in that time. And I think that's really important to set you up for the day. Michael Hyatt talks about having your big three for the day, which is similar to what you just described. And I think there's a lot of power because we always use this word intentionality. It helps you set the intentions for the day, even if, as you said, 5 minutes in it blows up. That's truly powerful.
Okay. Next up, we have delegate and automate where you can. I know it can be challenging for a lot of dads and a lot of parents.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is really interesting, but this is where the value of a team comes in. If you're not in that situation, which I found myself when I was a single dad, um, you know, the ability to delegate to actually my children, because they were still pretty young, but they were all very capable. Delegate certain responsibilities that they can do. I think I've heard it said that um, you know if a child can do something, then you should really empower them to do it for themselves, as opposed to you always doing it for them. And so, my son was 6 years old. He was making his own smoothies in the morning because that's sort of part of the things that we enjoy.
All
And he
right,
got really,
man.
really good at it.
Meal
He would
prep.
take the
Love it. Love
initiative.
it.
I mean, we had David Bauer on the podcast a while ago, Dad on Purpose. And he talked about, this structure and these lists that he had for his children, 18 months old, 2 years old, doing certain tasks because they could do it for themselves. And I think there's a lot of power in terms of. I know we think of big pie in the sky of delegating, having an assistant or having all these other things, but the reality is when children are taught and given responsibility, it's an opportunity for them to grow and build confidence and build structure. And I saw a great video, not that I'm on social media very much, but it was all actually on LinkedIn. It was a mom who was, and Jeff Nelligan commented on it. And that's why I came, another great guest, where a mom sent her 7-year-old son into Chick-fil-A on his own with money to order and bring the food back. Great video, awesome sort of, and you should have heard the kid talking about it. Like, he was still feeling nervous and shaky afterwards, but he loved it. He's, when can I do that again? He had built this self-efficacy, this confidence, this belief that he could actually go and do things in what could oftentimes be a scary world. And I think there's too much of this protecting. Oh, you can't, like, hey, we got to delegate and empower kids and give them responsibility and look at them flourish as a result. Now, within reason, safely, all those other important aspects. But I think there's too much of a default to not empower kids. So that's one thing, a little bit of a soapbox, you could say. But automation, I mean, we've got so many AI tools. You and I are leveraging some of these AI tools ourselves, and where you can automate things that you have with these valuable tools, hey, find it, because it can be truly helpful and save a ton of time. We've been using a tool for the back end of the podcast that automates some of the information that is produced after, and that's saved a ton of time. So there are ways that you can find these tools. I'm actually talking with a dad who's going through a very difficult situation right now, and he's been doing some work on his own, but AI can synthesize a lot of the research that he's done and give him some key points and be able to use it. So there's a lot of tremendous opportunity now that we didn't have even 2 or 3 years ago to automate certain tasks that can save us a lot of time. And so I think being smart about that is tremendously valuable to help with our time.
Yeah, I just want to add on in regards to how Drew was saying he had his son making smoothies. I want to encourage you as dads to get your kids age appropriate responsibilities. Underlining age appropriate. You know the limits of your child or children. Give them age appropriate. And if you're a little bit uncertain, give them that responsibility and see how they do with it. Are they comfortable? Because you don't know unless you give it to them. But again, as much as possible, age appropriate responsibilities to help you out, and you're working together. And when they do it right, celebrate them, give them that high five and say you did an awesome job and encouragement. Next up, protecting mental energy. And this is a constant theme through many of our conversations, whether it's between ourselves or with other dads. What do you have to say on that one?
Yeah, another great example from our mentor community, a dad who basically said, "Hey, I've got these app limits that I normally set on my phone." He acknowledged that he'd been ignoring his app limits and really said, "You know what? I really need to dial it back." And so that's a small example of this idea of protecting his mental energy because it takes him down these rabbit holes and he can spend inordinate amounts of time on these one apps. So recognizing we're in an age of distraction, there are screens literally everywhere. For me, it drives me a little bit nuts, and I do my best to basically push away screens. We have digital devices like phones for productivity purposes, for connection purposes, but they're designed to literally get and hold your attention for way too long. And so, being able to protect our mental energy, set boundaries, healthy for ourselves, is really important. One quick example is years ago, I had 2 or 3 apps. One of them was House on my phone, and it was really demoralizing me. Actually, I recognized the difference it was making in my because I would look at these beautiful places on House, and I look at my house. I'm like, there's a disc, and I think that's a lot happens a lot of social media. So I actually recognize it for myself, not patting my back here, but I recognize, wow, this isn't helping me. And I deleted a lot of these apps off my phone. I said, I'm not going on these things anymore. And I immediately felt so much freer. So we have to really protect our mental energy, emotional energy in this age of distraction.
Yeah, I'll just add on. I'm going to want to encourage dads, take dad breaks from social media. Take breaks from it, please, and thank you. And instead of looking at the screen all the time, what about taking a walk? What about doing some meditation, deep breathing, just sitting on a porch and relaxing, weather appropriate, or just going outside for if you're working from home, going outside and just taking a walk around the block instead of having that screen in front of you. What we're going to finally end up with is learn to say no. I'm going to say it again, learn to say no to the wrong things. And I think you highlighted a bit about this earlier about boundaries and things like that. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, what I was thinking when you were sharing that is the other night I didn't go to bed till extremely late, and here's why: I was binging on Netflix. I forget what show it was. It might have been Last Chance You. It might have been Court of Gold. Who knows? I really enjoy these documentaries where they kind of go behind the scenes of what's going on, or Quarterback, or any of those. And so the reality is that I needed to learn to say no to that watch next episode and say no, you actually your sleep is much better. Rick, here's why. The next day, after 2 or 3 nights of that, I really felt it. And I felt it in the sense of my lack of patience, my lack of tolerance for the behavior of the kids, or for a situation that came up with Kristen. And so because I didn't take care of myself, I didn't say no to that wrong thing. It impacted me, and then ultimately had a spillover effect on my family. And so the reality is, we need to learn to say no and discipline ourselves. And the other part of this is the people pleasing aspect of it. So some people really struggle to say no. Like, and I'm going to use this as an example because Kristen loves to serve and host, and she loves to bake, and so she's amazing at it. Sometimes she's been asked by the youth group at church to prepare the snacks, and when Kristen hears that, it's like, I need to go all out and make it the best snacks that there ever was. as opposed to most parents who just like go to the store, buy a bag of cookies, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and just kind of drop it off there. She literally bakes everything from scratch, makes it the best she can, lays it out on these perfect, beautiful displays, and then goes there, sets it up, and almost literally serves people. So it takes her a ton of time and energy. She's actually learned to say no when they ask her to do snacks because she recognizes it actually pulls her away, from the people that need her most and pulls her energy away from the things that she wants to focus on. And so I'm sure there are many dads who can write their own story of, people they're good at it. They're valuable. Like a friend who says, "Hey man, I need some help with my plumbing," or a friend who says, "Let's go for this bike trip," or a friend who says, "Hey, let's go play some golf." Like, hey, you want to go do that? Don't get me wrong; those are all on their own good things, but you have to evaluate in the moment. Do I need to say no to this? And we haven't released this when this comes out. We had a conversation with Mike Matheny, and he talked about as a professional athlete when his buddies were, they actually were the ones that said to him, "Hey, we could go play golf. Well, hey, you know what? You need to be home with your family right now. It's an off day. Go spend time with your family." They were holding each other accountable to say no to the wrong things. I'll pause there and let you get a breath in. Sorry, Ed.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll just add on to this for our dads and fathers, milk caregivers out there. Set boundaries with work and extra obligations. And something we really want to encourage with fathers, say yes to things that align with who you are. Alignment is really important. It's one of my key words. Alignment is so important. And don't overcommit because the most valuable thing we have in life is our time. And as a gentleman a long time told me, time never lost a fight. Time never lost sight. So really be purposeful with your time, especially in regards to your kids and your family, because that time isn't going to come back. So we have recapped today. We're talking about, what most dads struggle with time management and how to reduce stress. We talked about 5 things. We got it all in, Drew. We got it all in. We talked about the 80-20 rule, the power of a simple routine. We talked about delegate and automate where you can. Also, protecting your mental energy. And finally, learn to say no. And I like to say it again, learn to say no to the wrong things. So we realize that struggling with time management is normal, but small changes can make a big difference. So focus on what truly matters, set routines, and reduce stress by working smarter, not harder. Drew, anything else you want to add before we shut down today's conversation?
The final thing I'll add is an exercise that I got from John Maxwell years ago. The 3 R's exercise, I think, is a very practical, tangible way to bring this to life. So if you're a dad who wants to manage his time better, I'd encourage you to download this 3 R's worksheet. It's going to be in the show notes. So go to the show notes, click on that link, download that 3 R's worksheet. And here's the thing, it's going to take you some time to do it because you have to reflect and build out what are the demands on my life. And the 3 R's, well, you'll have to get the worksheet to know what those 3 R's stand for. But I can tell you, it's a powerful and impactful resource that when I did that exercise, it really clarified what truly was most important and where I should be allocating my time where I wasn't at the time. So it helped me rejig my schedule on how I did things. So I hope you get the same benefit. So go ahead and download that from our show notes.
Wonderful. I want to say thank you as always. You are watching or listening to Dad Central, a parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. And our show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. We'd love to hear from you. So email us at podcast@dadcentral.ca. What you'd like us to talk about. Share some of your fatherhood experiences with us. Suggest guests. And you can check out the podcast at dadcentral.ca/podcasts and piles of wonderful free resources for you dads, fathers, and male caregivers at dadcentral.ca. As always, like to say thank you so much for watching and giving the most valuable thing in your life, your time to us. As always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace, and we'll see you soon.